Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho back with another video. Today we have the Beyerdynamic MMX 100. Now I bought this headphone with my own money, and what makes this headphone very exciting is that it's kind of a cheaper Beyerdynamic gaming headphone. And Beyerdynamic is known for their studio headphones, and a lot of professionals use their headphones. They should know how to tune a good headphone. So yeah, so I'm going to unbox this, and then I'm going to talk about the sound and the build quality. And yeah, let's see what this delivers, and is this better than other gaming headphones on the market? We'll find out. Also, please like and subscribe down below. It really helps my videos out. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, so any help would be appreciated. And put your comments down below if you want me to answer any of those. All right, let's unbox this. So just kind of lift it up, I think. With the headphones sitting inside. Nicely protected by the foam. But yeah, MMX 100. This is the model that doesn't have like the surround system in it. It's just a normal 3.5mm cable. I didn't want any fancy like dongle features at all. This top pad is actually very nice and plush and thick. I feel like this plush is very popular nowadays. It reminds me of the same ones that were on the Odyssey Mobius, except there's a lot more padding here, so it's a lot thicker and nicer. And then the ear pads are made of something very similar to that material as well, some type of pleather. And yeah, the cups are made of plastic. This is nice bare metal right here for the extensions. This part is, it feels very weird. There's like almost you can see this like being wet or like wax or something. It slides without much sound, which is nice. And yeah, we also have the microphone in here. It has something that like keeps it in from falling out. That's cool, I guess. And then it's actually a very like big microphone. Most microphones are like small. This is like a nice flat area. So then we can plug into the microphone jack. The other thing that's interesting is that this is actually a detachable cable, which like even their like $150, $180 studio headphones are not even detachable cable, which I find hilarious that their $100 gaming headset has a detachable cable. So Beyer, like you should definitely update your cheaper studio headphones. See if we can find the cable down here. Got a little manual, how to use it, the fun stuff. Should be a nice cable in here. It's really a nicely designed box. It reminds me a lot of the Odyssey Mobius type of stuff, or the Hyperx model. And then, okay, so we have two cables here. So this is a standard splitter into your PC, so for your mic and your headphone. And then this is just a shorter cable if you just want to use it on the go for like your mobile device as well, or just plug into like your laptop with one device. So then here's the cable. There's kind of this nice orange end that you can see versus the other end that plugs in your device. So it kind of tells you like to plug it into this. So it's kind of nicely sized perfectly to stick in. And then of course, you can check the bottom of this. We actually have a microphone mute button that kind of clicks nicely. And then we have a little scroll that scrolls really quickly to increase and decrease your volume. All right, so I've been wearing this for a while, a few hours, and listening to it. So what I noticed is actually the padding up here is sufficient. It's really nice. The ear cups are really, really soft. I really like the pleather they're made out of and the memory foam. It's honestly very, very comfortable, but they do get a little hot. That's the thing I noticed. Like they kind of seal in and make my ears hot after a while. So that might be an issue. The other thing I noticed about these cups as well is that they're not very deep. So you can see that they're not like that deep. Like it barely fits my finger in there. So my ears definitely push up against the ear cup inside. So that can kind of get uncomfortable. I think that's like the biggest downside with these ear pads is they're just not deep enough. So the comfort is definitely a little bit lacking in that regard. But besides that, they're very lightweight. They fit nice. They're built honestly really nice. I really like the look. I like just the buttons and everything. They're a really nicely built headphone, except right here is plastic, right? So that's the only thing that kind of feels a little cheap, but I could live past that, especially for $100. It's definitely not bad. Now, let's talk about how do they sound, right? So the sound quality that you get from this is a very bass heavy type of sound, I would say. It definitely has a little bit of a boosted bass, but it's really, really nicely done. And I think it also kind of fills in the sub bass a lot. So a lot of headphones I feel like can't really play the sub bass and the bass that well. This is the first headphone I think under $100 that has done it extremely, extremely well. I think this might be the best bass I've heard under 100 for sure. And then when it comes to kind of the rest of the frequency, the vocals, male vocals and female vocals come out across pretty well. They're not like overemphasized. I think there's not as much like air to them. Like there's not this like, it's not a very bright headphone at all. The treble is really well controlled. All the kind of brighter, higher frequencies are definitely, you can definitely hear them clearly, but they're not overly enhanced in any way at all. Because Beyerdynamic is known for having like kind of this, what people call it, bear spike, so like a really enhanced treble. And this headphone doesn't exhibit any of that. I would say this headphone is almost a little tad bit dark in that region, so definitely not as emphasized. And I think I like that a lot about this headphone, is that it's just not too bright and it's very comfortable listening to for a long period of time. And then when you're playing like shooting games, so I played some Valorant on this, the guns don't just like blow your ears out because they're like too bright or anything, so it's really good. The kind of soundstage and like imaging, so like the directional accuracy and everything like that in games and in music, I noticed that the soundstage isn't like anything special. It just sounds like a headphone, like any other headphone. It doesn't sound like overly wide or anything. It just sounds like a normal headphone. Telling directions of where things are coming from, I actually think is pretty good. I was playing like some deathmatch, and I could tell when people were like turning corner really closely, very far away. This headphone does a pretty good job at kind of detecting footsteps in different ranges, but I do think it's like sense of space and soundstage isn't that big. Yeah, so to summarize the sound of the Beyerdynamic is, I think it's basically a pretty balanced signature with a little bit of a bass boost to it, and then the treble is not overemphasized at all, right? So it's a very good sounding headset, and it definitely, when you turn the volume up, it doesn't really distort that much at all, and it kind of stays up to speed. So I want to do some comparison with what I consider one of the best headphones under 100 as well, which is the Hyperx Cloud Alpha. Now these headsets are kind of both very similar. They both have this metal yoke, and then they have this nice plushy headbands on both of them. So it's very comfortable. They both have leather pads as well. They have pretty big pads, but I think the Beyerdynamic pad is a little bit more rounder, so it gives a little bit more space. I think the HyperX pads are actually kind of deeper, so my ears don't touch as much as they do on the Beyerdynamic, so that's something I noticed. That these are definitely a little deeper, so it definitely fits a little bit better, and my ears don't touch the driver as much in the HyperXs. I think that gives the HyperX an advantage in that regard, but they're built very similarly. Like you can tell they're like almost copies of each other, honestly. But the difference is that the microphone on the Beyerdynamic sounds a little bit better, a little bit more bassy, a little less noise canceling. I'll give you guys a sample of that. So this is a mic test of the Beyerdynamic MMX 100. Now today I played a game of Valorant and I got an ace, which is actually a lie because I didn't, so sucks to be me. Alright, this is a mic test of the HyperX Cloud Alpha. I've had this headset for at least 5 years now, and it's one of the very best and also one of my very favorites. Buttons on the Beyerdynamic as well, so they have the volume up and down and then mic mute on the actual headset, versus the HyperX doesn't have that at all. It's actually kind of attached on their cable, so you would have to kind of use this to mic mute and switch. So in that regard, if you like that better on the Beyerdynamic, then it definitely wins. I think they're very close, honestly. They're both really well built. I give the Beyerdynamic a little bit of edge in the buttons, but the comfort to the HyperX. Now the question is, how does the sound compare between these two, right? So the sound quality of these two, the Beyerdynamic is more bass focused, and it definitely produces the bass a lot better than the Hyperx. The Hyperx kind of just, I feel like in the sub bass region, it doesn't really dig as deep as the Beyerdynamic, so the Beyerdynamic wins in that regard. But I think the Hyperx is kind of a different focused headphone. It focuses more on like vocals and a little bit brighter type of sound than the Beyerdynamic. And in that sense, I think people would actually think the Hyperx sounds a little bit more cleaner and clearer in that regard, because the bass isn't kind of like overwhelming kind of the rest of the frequencies. Versus the Beyerdynamic is definitely focused more on the low end, so the bass can kind of like eat into the other regions as well. And I think in that regard, I think if you're looking for this like cleaner, crisper sound, I think the Hyperx is definitely that choice. Versus the Beyerdynamic is like, if you like that nice meaty low end and that bass, this is the headphone you go for. And that's kind of how I summarize. The resolution of these headphones are really good, and they're very comparable with each other. All right, in conclusion, do I recommend a Beyerdynamic MMX 100? I absolutely do. I think this actually might take the cake for the best gaming headphone under $100. I think that Cloud Alpha has reigned supreme for a very long time. But I think the one thing I like about the MMX is obviously the bass is a little bit more boosted, but it really fills in that bass region that I was always missing on the HyperX. I feel like the HyperX had good bass, but it just didn't have that last bit of like sub bass that I always felt just missing. And the other thing is that the HyperX, I think the brighter signature is good for that more crispy sound, but some people might find that a little irritating, versus I think the Beyerdynamic has a little bit more controlled treble. It's a little bit darker, so it won't sound as like clean and crisp, but you also won't hear a little bit too sharp sounds at all, so it'll be a little bit more comfortable listening. So I feel like it's a safer pick in that sense. So yeah, I do think the Beyerdynamic MMX 100 is definitely worth it and is the best headphone under $100. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe down below. It helps my videos out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.